Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Roerig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we have some stuff coming up on the horizon that we're looking forward to. We have some things to talk about in our news segment on Beats. And we have some more anecdotes of the fandom to go over for The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. Let's get started with On the Horizon.
On the horizon. On the horizon.
Which is, of course, where we look ahead to what is coming up in the next week or so. So on Wednesday, June 7th, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is returning to FXX. This is season 16 of the comedy series.
It's crazy to think that it's at 16 seasons. Like, that's amazing.
It's one of those shows that, struggled every season to get its next season. And now it's just such an institution that it's just it'll just be on forever as long as they want it to be on.
Right. Yeah, when I first saw the show, when it was new, I definitely thought this was like a 2 or 3 season show. It was so out there that no way could I have predicted it'd still be running.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to Supernatural in the sense that if you remember, that show originally had a 5-season arc. That was what it was supposed to be. And
yes.
It struggled every year to get another season. Every year they'd be like, well, if we get another season, this is where we're gonna go. Well, if we get another season, it went 15 seasons.
Yeah, it went way past their planned arc to the point where they had to just come up with new stuff.
Yeah, they're like, okay, well, what can we do now? It's I don't know. And then eventually when it ended, it was just on their own terms because they were like, I don't think we can do this anymore.
Right, yeah, exactly.
we got nothing to do here.
The actors were getting tired of doing it every year and everything, so it's yeah.
It's time to move on. It's it's weird how shows can go like that.
Yeah, it is, definitely.
We also have coming up on Thursday, June 8th, based on a true story coming to Peacock. This is not entirely based on a true story. It's coming from one of the producers of The Boys, and it involves a realtor, a tennis star, and a plumber caught up in a murder. So,
oh, okay, yeah, I saw this trailer. This is one of those things that I watched the trailer for it, and I'm noticing this happening more and more where I watch it and I think, oh well, yeah, that looks like a fun movie, and then it says it's a series. I'm like, wait, why is this a series? How far is this premise gonna go?
Yeah. It's weird. It might be just a limited series. There's fun things you can explore. When you do have 3 central characters that are caught up in it, you can do individual stories for all of them. And
that's true.
There's room for it. It's just
limited
a matter
series.
Of what they're gonna do. Yeah.
Yeah. You could finesse it. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But that's coming Thursday, June 8th to Peacock. Then also on Thursday, June 8th, but on Netflix, Never Have I Ever is returning for its final season. This is the Mindy Kaling
Never Have
show.
I Ever watched this show.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's funny because the main character is this Indian girl in high school, and her inner narration is John McEnroe, the tennis player, the famously bad-tempered tennis player.
That's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, and then they've done episodes where it focuses on different characters, and they have different celebrities doing their thing. So there's this one guy that she kind of has a on-again, off-again thing with. It's this Jewish guy, this Jewish kid, and his is done by God, I can't even think of his name right now. I don't know why. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Lonely Island.
Andy Samberg.
Andy Samberg, that's it.
So he did the narration. I did Google, I just remembered.
So he did the inner voice narration for the other guy. So it's really funny the way it's put together.
That sounds fun. Anyway.
Yeah. Then, also on Thursday, June 8th, the Pokemon Trading Card Game Live is coming to PC and iOS. So
neat. I don't really have anything to say about that. I played the Pokemon card game.
Is this just basically the digital version of the card game where you buy the cards individually, kind of like the Magic the the Gathering Online?
Yes, from my understanding, yeah, that's it. And all I want to say
weird
is
that it's not on Switch, right? At all?
no. There's no Pokemon trading card games on. The last one on a console was Pokemon Trading Card Game 2 for the Game Boy Color that only released in Japan. But they did do the Pokemon Trading Card Game for Game Boy Color Part 1, which did get an English North American release. And I played that.
It's weird that it's not coming to Switch.
It's
coming to
weird
fucking
that
iOS, so it's not coming to Switch is just weird.
Konami does like 8 million Yu-Gi-Oh! Like games, like based on the card game, and releases them across all platforms. I don't know why the Pokemon company can't do that with the trading card game.
Yeah, especially since like Pokemon is basically a Nintendo franchise, and
yeah, it's so weird. It's like, oh yeah, you have to play this on PC and iOS. Like, okay,
like what?
I want like a game like I want a Pokemon trading card game like Duels of Planeswalkers, where like you could play like multiplayer, obviously, but like also like there's single player where you're fighting against CPU opponents or like some puzzle scenarios and stuff for you to work through. That'd be really fun, but they'll never do that.
And if they did, it wouldn't be on Switch.
It would get me back into it, but yeah.
Next, we have The Crowded Room, which is coming on Friday, June 9th to Apple TV+. We talked about the trailer for this, I think, like a week or two ago. This is the one with Tom Holland where he's playing a guy who has dissociative identity disorder. And
okay.
There's like a murder or something that happens and they think it might be him, but he's confused about his own timeline and stuff because he's got multiple personalities.
Yeah, he doesn't know if he's Nathan Drake or if he's Peter Parker.
Yeah. Then, on Friday night, coming to Hulu and Disney Plus, is Flamin' Hot, the movie about the flavor, which I'm guessing is going to be a tragedy because it builds up to the Mountain Dew flavor.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of not entirely true, because this is based off the urban legend about the janitor who supposedly invented the flavor and pitched it to the CEO.
Yeah,
and
probably not true.
No, it's not true. Los Angeles Times did an investigation in 2021 where they interviewed multiple former employees from Frito-Lay plus current executives who all denied that this guy Richard had any involvement in the flavor. The flavor was actually created by their like snack food team.
Like where all their flavors are created.
Yes.
They have a lab.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It was created same as anything. It was inspired by spicy snacks that they found in inner city mini marts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this might be a fun story. Neat, but I mean, they're trying to push this as like the true story because the guy, he got rich off of telling this story. He does speaking engagements where he charges like tens of thousands of dollars to speak about this. And there was a fierce bidding war for the rights to his story for like this movie. And like there was a book. It's just crazy. And like none of it is true. but they're marketing this as a true story. That's the thing.
Yeah. Also on Friday, June 9th, Human Resources is returning to Netflix. This is the Big Mouth spinoff. If you haven't seen Big Mouth and you don't know what it is, but in Big Mouth, it's about these kids and they're going through puberty and they make like these personifications of all these kind of things that you deal with when you're at that age, like hormones and shame and all these depression and anxiety. And there's like, so they have like, you know, the shame wizard and the hormone monsters and all these things are like, and Human Resources is basically where the Big Mouth is about the kids and then features these monsters and other things in it. Human Resources is like about kind of like, you know, a fantasy plane of existence or like a dream existence or something where all of these monsters and stuff live and like work for a business. And their job is to, you know, put kids through hormones and shit.
Oh, that's funny.
So, yeah. So that is Human Resources returning for its second season on Friday, June 9th on Netflix. And then lastly, also on Friday, June 9th, Transformers Rise of the Beast comes to movie theaters, and I could not care less. You excited for the new Transformers movie?
No.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you if you were going to rise to the occasion and go see it.
No. I'll look at it and go meh, even though I can go to any movie on my subscription. So I'll still look at it and go meh. No.
Meh.
Okay, and that is it for our On the Horizon segment, and now we're moving on to On Beat.
On Beat.
We're kicking off this On Beat segment by talking about the recent PlayStation Showcase. This is about a week ago that this happened, but at the time that we recorded our podcast, it had just happened and we already kind of had our notes set and everything, and I wasn't about to do a bunch of research and look up and do everything on it at the last second for that. So we moved it to today, and we're going to talk about some of the games that were shown in the PlayStation Showcase, as well as I think we're going to start this off by talking about the showcase itself, which I found exceedingly boring. It was an hour and a half or something, and around the 40-minute mark, I was drifting, I was almost asleep. And I looked at the time and I was like, oh, are you fucking kidding me? There's still this much left. And I think a lot of it is because they had good games they showed. It's just the pacing. It was they had these little pretentious, PlayStation logo bits between some of the trailers that were just annoying, stupid, served absolutely no purpose. And then every trailer had the exact same cadence and pacing.
Yes.
And it just felt like a slog.
One of my big things is half the games to me just looked boring. They all looked like variations on the same thing.
Yeah. They felt even more like that because of the way the trailers were all paced exactly the same,
Yeah.
It made it just feel like they all flowed into each other. It'd be a vastly different visual style, and it still just felt like it flowed from one thing into another with no change, nothing that changed up the pace, or it was just bad. I don't know how it works like this, and the trailers, this is a lot of the AAA trailers. This isn't just a PlayStation thing, but a lot of AAA trailers that come out. Of course, they all come out with just CG, or they'll use the in-game graphics but show no gameplay. And when they do that, they all follow the exact same formula for the trailers.
Oh, it's so
and they're
formulaic.
so boring.
Yeah. It's so we saw this before.
It's like they fed in footage from the game or the cutscenes and then put it into an AI prompt and said, make Sony PlayStation Showcase trailer. And it just plugged and placed them in the exact way for that exact cadence and pacing. Nobody shook it up at all. It was bad. Even the good stuff just felt boring within the showcase,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Let's talk about the games that were shown and something else besides a game as well that was shown. But let's kick things off. Phantom Blade Zero. So at first I thought this was is this some kind of a Wo-Long thing?
Yeah,
it looked very similar.
Yeah, it looked very similar. It's not by Tecmo Koei. It's not by that team or anything. Mm-hmm. It's a completely different studio and company. It's a Chinese company. But yeah, that's what struck me. It looked like, it looked like that kind of, Tecmo Koei style action game set in ancient China. And it looked like a lot of fun, to be honest. I don't know if it, how great it's going to be when it comes out, but I mean, at least it looked interesting. At least it looked different from most of the stuff that preceded it.
Or followed it.
Yeah. So that got my interest.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we have Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. So this is a remake of it was a PSP game, wasn't it? Or was it PS Vita?
No. That was a full-fledged console game. That was Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Okay. What was the PSP one?
It was, shoot.
I don't remember what that one was. Okay, so this was a PS2 game then?
Yes, this was a PS2 game. This was the biggest game of the time.
So I knew there were 3 Metal Gear Solids. Well, there was 2 on PS2, and the first one was on the original PlayStation. I thought this was the portable one, but I guess that was a different game.
Peace Walker was the one for PSP.
Okay. So
well, there was 2 for PSP. There was Portable Ops and Peace Walker.
This is a remake of the third one. I know that because I know Snake Eater, they even played it in the trailer, had that very James Bond theme song.
Yes.
And it had a lot of kind of tongue-in-cheek stuff going on in it. But I mean, this is a remake that they're doing without Hideo Kojima. Do we even know who's developing this? Because Konami doesn't even have development teams anymore, do they?
Konami confirmed they're developing this internally with support from Virtuos, which is a major port studio. And it sounds like they're cutting some corners with the budget too.
Oh, it's Konami.
When they did the original announcement, they said, it's we're remaking Metal Gear Solid 3 with the entire original voice cast. And the reaction was oh, cool. You literally got everybody back to re-record for this game? No, they're reusing the recordings they used for the PS2.
What a weird way to phrase that, then.
Yes. Yeah.
Konami. Never change.
Yeah. But I mean, looks cool. It's actually called Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater.
Okay.
They also confirmed, to nobody's surprise, that Hideo Kojima is not involved in this.
He's probably watching going like, what the fuck?
Yeah. But I mean, it's Metal Gear Solid 3. We've had some good success with remakes so far this year. Like Dead Space got a fantastic remake. Resident Evil 4 got a fantastic remake.
Metroid Prime.
Like, this could be another one. Like, Konami
Metroid Prime has,
also
I think, the second highest score. The Metroid Prime remake has the second highest score this year on Metacritic.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's like Tears of the Kingdom and then...
It's Metroid Prime, so
4,
that's right.
Or Metroid Prime, yeah.
Well,
not Metroid Prime 4. Metroid Prime.
One of my all-time favorite games.
Yeah, but it's a remake, and it got like a 93, 94, something like that.
It's just that good. It's just that good. But yeah, like, we didn't see much of it. We saw like a CG render of Snake, and to their credit, it actually looks like Snake. It doesn't look like they hired like some actor and like changed his appearance to match like some new actor or something. So that's good at least, but yeah, not much else that we know or can say about this at the moment.
Next up, we have Final Fantasy 16, which has had a ton of trailers over time.
That game looks so hype.
I'm just no longer interested in it. It just isn't for me.
Yeah, I mean, it looks amazing to me. It reignited my interest in Final Fantasy. I was not really on board with 13. Well, I played 13 and decided it was boring. And 15 didn't look all that exciting. I was hopeful. And then, like, for the first trailer that came out, like, this blew me away. It looks like they're taking it in a new direction, which is controversial. But then again, like, I feel like they kind of have to, because the direction they were in was not that great to begin with. It is more like of an action RPG because like they got like this action focus with the combat. They hired like one of the people from like the Devil May Cry team to work on the combat, and it really shows when you look at like the trailer.
They're also making it much more like Western focused than the previous
said,
entries in the franchise.
They said like Game of Thrones was a huge influence on this, which is not surprising.
I think like I saw one of the early trailers and I actually got interested. And I haven't been interested in Final Fantasy since fucking like 7, which I ended up not liking. But like that was like the last one that like caught my attention, I think. Or I guess 9. But anyways, like it's been a long time since I've had any interest in Final Fantasy. It got my attention, not like it like I just wish it wasn't even called Final Fantasy because it's so different.
Yeah.
That, you know, like it should just have its own identity. But like I was like, oh, okay, this looks kind of interesting. And then like I saw another trailer and I just completely fell off. I wasn't interested at all. Then another trailer came out and I was interested again. But like in the like 7,000 trailers for this game that have come out since then, like it's mostly been heading downhill and I've kind of been losing my interest. And it's not because it necessarily looks bad. It's just like it's proving itself to not be what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And so for me personally, it just doesn't look, I mean, the game looks like technically good. It looks like they're doing interesting things with it, but it's not, it just doesn't look like something I'd enjoy playing at all.
Yeah. And I think nowadays, I think like that classic Final Fantasy is probably better served by stuff like Octopath Traveler.
Yeah, definitely. I think that kind of nails that dynamic better.
Yeah. But this is a day one for me.
Next, we got a new trailer for Alan Wake 2.
Mm-hmm. Now, have you played Alan Wake?
It's a game that I could not have had any care for in the world.
I
remember when that game came out.
Psychological horror game.
It's like the antithesis of what I find interesting in games.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on.
Then they ended out the conference with what is their one big, huge game for this year.
Yes.
Alan Wake 2.
No.
No, Spider-Man 2.
Yes. Spider-Man 2. This is going to be so hype. They got me from Man 1 because Peter Parker has the symbiote suit and he has like new symbiote powers, which is going to be like really awesome to like play around with. Miles got some new powers too. And there's a lot of impressive stuff they showed. The way like it seamlessly switched from Peter to Miles, like during the gameplay.
Very like GTA 5.
Yeah.
Like GTA, that was one of the best selling points of GTA 5 that people really loved was the way there were 3 characters and you could like swap between them, you know?
Right.
And it just kind of seamlessly popped into the other character is like, so it's like, yeah, that's
like
the kind of thing you'd expect to start seeing in more games now, especially with, you know, a lot of the NVMe, memory that's in like the new systems and how
that's
fast it is.
New SSD tech at work there.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic. I'm on board. It's funny because, like, we criticize CG trailers, and we say, show us gameplay, and I 100%, like, yes, thank you for showing us gameplay of this game, but I think it went on just a little too long.
Yeah.
There's
It's reminiscent of the first Spider-Man trailer, though. When they first showed Spider-Man, it was like the first game. It was very much the same. Like, it was a really long sequence that they were showing, the gameplay mechanics, the little QTE type events, and the little sectional set piece parts and stuff like that. Like the way that those kind of strung together, that was like how they showed the first Spider-Man game.
Yeah, exactly. And it does the same thing here. I just thought halfway through, I was like, yeah, I've seen enough. I'm sold.
Stop! You're like putting your fingers in your la 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 la.
Stop it. No.
But that's Spider-Man 2, and then the last two things that we're going to discuss, we're putting in here not as things that are interesting, but things that we just kind of want to piss all over.
This next one, I know you're super hyped for. Like, you're going to buy a
Foam
PS5.
Stars.
Yeah.
Square Enix watched people playing Splatoon and said, we want this, but can we make it a little bit more Persona?
Right. Yeah, it's so weird. Because I watched it and I was just like, oh great, yeah, like another like shooter. We just saw a shooter, let's see another shooter, I guess. And then they started like shooting foam and doing Splatoon stuff, and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. Then it's like, oh, this is just like a really big ripoff. Where they said like, okay, let's take Splatoon, a game that's really fun, and let's kind of take the core idea of it, take all the fun out of it, but add in like a lot of like foam physics and stuff that look really cool in a trailer. And that's what Foam Stars looks like.
Yeah.
It looks like Splatoon minus fun plus foam physics. And somebody modded it with a Persona skin. That's what Foam Stars looks like to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, and to me, like, half the appeal of, like, Splatoon is the personality of the game and, like, this weird universe, like, they invented.
Mm-hmm. Like, this, like, post-apocalyptic Squid Kid universe.
Yes, with, like, the deepest lore. It's crazy. But, I mean, this obviously doesn't have any of that.
Yeah, like the little, like, the squid pop stuff that goes on in that game, all the music and everything ties into the culture of that game.
Oh, yeah.
And here they said, well, we can't do any of that because that'll be too obvious of a ripoff. It wasn't obvious enough. So they said, well, let's just rip off Persona style and culture.
Yeah. I don't know, just a weird game coming from Square Enix. But,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the absolute dumbest thing that they showed at the PlayStation Showcase is their new quasi-handheld. I'm talking, of course, about Project Q.
Yeah. Project Q. This is a thing that they announced.
Yeah. But it's like the poster, like, tagline from Will Rorig. This is a thing. That's it.
Yeah, so they announced this, PlayStation 5 controller with the screen in the middle of it. Like, cause that's literally what it is, design-wise. And the big hook is like, yeah, this is a remote play device, a remote play accessory for your PlayStation 5. This is not its own dedicated system. You cannot use this without a PlayStation 5. It is just a dummy terminal to accept a signal from your PS5 and for your PS5 to broadcast games to it so that you could play PS5 games handheld.
Turns your PS5 into a PSU.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Although I'm willing to bet, like, the range is probably, like, a lot better than the Wii U gamepad.
Yeah, so, time and budget and, the more expensive probably controller. Because, I mean, what is the PlayStation 5 controller called? It's a Dual Sense or something?
Yes, it's a Dual Sense. And this does have, like, all the haptics and everything of a PS5 controller.
And the Dual Sense controller is already, like, almost $100, right?
Yeah, it's, like, $70, I believe.
I thought it was more than that, but I don't know. It's pricey.
Yeah, I know, because, like, I had to, like, buy a second one because the one that came bundled with my console, like, started getting, like, a stick drift in the middle of Resident Evil Village.
Yeah. So it's just like a really expensive controller, and now they're adding a touchscreen and this like wireless video feed connectivity, which is not cheap either. And it's like, okay, how much is this thing gonna cost?
Okay, yeah, they're $70. Although that's $7.
They have also the DualSense Edge is their pro controller. Their more professional one is $200.
But yeah, they're expensive controllers. I don't know how much this thing is going to be. I think if it's like somewhere around the ballpark of $200, that's fine. I mean, I would probably use it because for the convenience of like just being able to pop on a PS5 game at my desk. That's a convenience, but I mean, I wouldn't pay anything over $200 for this thing. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, the PSU has no release date yet. We'll have to see
It's
what they do
rumored
with
to
it.
be coming out in November, but yeah.
It's going to come out with foam stars.
Yes.
And crashed part.
Exclusive too, meaning like the games will not work unless they detect the Project Q.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it for the PlayStation Showcase, though. Next, we have a few trailers that we want to talk about in our On Beat segment. Some new ones came out. First, we got the first kind of full trailer for the new season of Black Mirror. It sounds like you weren't too excited about this one.
I mean, not really. I mean, but go ahead and give me your thoughts.
I think Black Mirror fell off after season 2. Like, when it got bought by Netflix, it fell off hard. I know, like, your favorite episode was, like, one of the Netflix season episodes. Either season 3 or 4. I don't remember how many seasons there are now. But I think it lost what it was after season 2. Like, it was very much this, like, gut punch of a show. It was a very, very dark comedy where, like, it didn't even feel like a comedy at all. And it was very, like, kind of Twilight Zone, and it was all based on having this gut punch at the end to me. That's what defined Black Mirror. And I think they, like, lost a lot of that when it went to Netflix. And it's not because Netflix changed it, it's just, I think that, because Charlie Brooker was still running it and everything and still doing it the way he wanted to do it. It was just a matter of, I think it was running out of ways to do that formula and keep it fresh.
Yeah.
And so he just kind of changed things. So my opinion on Black Mirror dropped with its last season was pretty bad. But it's been a while and a lot has changed, like, in our world since then. And Charlie Brooker talks about he's doing it's like another shift. Whereas, like, when it kind of went to Netflix and it kind of had more positive episodes and more they split them between like British ones and American episodes, and they were like taking in more influences and stuff. Well, all of that was what happened with the Netflix when it got bought by Netflix. Like, now it's like another shift. So it's like another turning point in the franchise, which makes me interested to see where it's going. But the way the trailer like ended too, with one of the episodes, it said something like, and now introducing Red Mirror. And then it had this very like horror looking episode. And I'm like, what's this?
Yeah, it's like this, this horror, like supernatural episode. And I'm like, okay, that has nothing to do with the Black Mirror theme.
I mean, it might be a surprise twist at the end or something.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
But the way they did the whole and introducing Red Mirror, so I'm like, what? Like, what's this? So I'm highly curious. And I think some of the stuff looked kind of interesting. I think it's weird that they're doing kind of an episode about Netflix, it seems, but they changed the name.
That one looks so goofy.
But the thing is, it's weird to me that it's an obvious spoof of Netflix in the thing. It's just a Netflix own show. They couldn't have just used Netflix.
Yeah, they used the name Streamberry, which even for like a fictional streaming service is like the stupidest name I ever heard. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, honestly, I could see it as a British streaming service, and the show's from the UK. Yeah. They have some weird names for their streaming services or things in the UK, you know? So
I was like, okay, yeah. It's obviously like more comedic in tone. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, that had already gone that way in the last 2 seasons, so it'll be interesting to see like what it is now. I want to see it because I want to know what it is this time. If I'm not interested or not. But Charlie Brooker wants to do comedy, he needs to bring back A Touch of Claw. We talked about that on the podcast, and that was a really funny show.
Yeah, that show was brilliant. yeah, definitely.
Next up, we got a trailer for Jack Ryan. This is the final season of the spy drama series starring Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness's Reed Richards. So, have you watched any of Jack Ryan?
No.
I'm kind of surprised because you're a fan of the actor, right? So,
I mean, he was good on The Office. I don't know if I'm a huge John Krasinski fan, but I mean, yeah, he's alright.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the show. I think it's okay. It's a fun action espionage series. But yeah, it's up for its final season, and this is the trailer for that. Next, we got a trailer for I think it's a series from the creator of, Sorry to Bother You. I can't remember the name of the movie that it's from the same guy as, but it's called I'm a Virgo, and it's about basically a black giant in a world where there's seems to be superheroes and stuff going on in the world, and he's just like a really large black man.
Yeah.
He's like 16 feet tall or something. And it's kind of like exploring, that as a concept that he's like threatening because black people are already considered threatening in a white society, but that he's 16 feet tall and really strong makes him an even bigger threat, but also a big target. The movie that I can't remember the name of, again, like I said, I think it's Sorry to Bother You or something, apparently went in some really weird directions. It's one that's been on my list to watch for a while, but I haven't gotten around to it. But it apparently took some very weird directions in that movie and people really loved it. So I think that's part of what makes me a little bit interested in this is just kind of who's involved, and having a big concept makes me go like, I wonder where this is going to go. Because I think it's not going to just be where it's at on the surface level. I think it's going further than that, but we'll have to see when that comes. What did you think of the trailer?
Well, it looked okay. I don't really have much of an opinion.
We got a new trailer for the Barbie movie that actually kind of shows what the movie is. Like the last few trailers were just kind of like teases really that were kind of like playing with concepts. They had the first trailer was just a straight up teaser. It didn't even have any like movie footage in it. And then the second one was kind of just more focusing on kind of like the fun and ridiculousness of the Barbie world. And this one is kind of like more focusing on the story of what's going on. Yeah.
So this revealed, I think, what you could already suss out is like, this is a parody film, basically. Barbie goes to the real world, hijinks ensue, type thing.
It's from a kind of an indie darling director, though, who did a movie called Lady Bird, I'm sorry, that was really interesting. So it makes me kind of more, I don't think it's going to be a straight parody. I think there's like a social commentary to this.
Oh, there's probably there's probably a social commentary, but it looks like a parody. It looks like they're really doing a lot of work to make sure that this has much broader appeal than like what you would think a Barbie movie would. Like this looks like aiming for obviously kids who love Barbie, but also adults of both genders.
Even said it in a trailer. If you love Barbie, this is the movie for you. If you hate Barbie, this is the movie for you.
Yeah. Like they got Will Ferrell in it. Will Ferrell is like the CEO of Mattel in like this movie now.
Which immediately made me think of like the Lego movie.
Yeah.
We've seen that and like Will Ferrell's role in that, But, I think it's interesting and, Simu Liu's also in it. We knew that from before.
Yeah, he's one of the Kens. He's got a rivalry with Ryan Gosling's Ken.
Yeah.
I don't know given the plot, I don't know how much of a role the other like Barbies and Kens are gonna play. Like,
I imagine the first act of the movie is gonna be in Barbie world.
Yeah.
And the second act is gonna be the real world, and the first act is gonna somehow tie them together. That's what like formulaic movie making makes me think, but I don't know if this is gonna be formulaic because who's directing it, so.
Yeah, I don't think, I think this is gonna defy formula. By the way, I gotta say, Ryan Gosling and all his press comments for this movie has just like been totally awesome. Like I just saw this quote, Ryan Gosling responding to criticism of him like being too old to play Ken. And he said, suddenly it's like, we've cared about Ken this whole time. No, you didn't. You never did. You never cared. Barbie never effed with Ken. That's the point. If you really cared about Ken, you would know that nobody cared about Ken. So your hypocrisy is exposed. And this is why his story must be told.
It's great because it's hard hitting, but at the same time, it's like satirical,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, his comments directly, not just the movie. It's like, that's interesting.
Yes, it's funny. It looks like it's going to be a fun movie, and I've never cared about Barbie as a franchise in my life, so take that from me.
Well, I have to ask you, do you care about awkward teen sex comedies?
No.
Then you probably don't care about the new trailer for No Hard Feelings.
You nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like kind of like raunchy comedy type stuff. Like, I think, the last one that was pretty good was that like Good Boys, where it was like these kind of little kids and they were in a situation like that. Was pretty funny,
I mean, and then, though they can be fun. This does not look fun. This looks like Jennifer Lawrence playing somebody completely obnoxious and annoying, and then they got like the weirdest kid in the world to pair up with her. And hijinks
this is like
ensue, I guess.
Millennials versus Gen Z sex comedy.
Yeah. It's just weird. I don't know. It looks like a weird movie.
Yeah.
It's like neither of these characters have any charisma. What are we doing?
And then lastly, we just got, today, a trailer for Justified City Primeval.
Oh, it looks so good.
Yeah, Raylan's old, man, and his daughter,
yeah,
he's got a teenage daughter now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, this is many years after Justified, obviously. But man, it still looks like it's got that magic, for this trailer. Like, so glad to have Justified back. I mean, just watch this trailer. It doesn't look like, even though they've been gone, that world has been gone for like years. Doesn't look like they skipped a beat.
Yeah, it looks exciting. I'm looking forward to its return.
Probably my most anticipated new show of the entire year, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. It's one of the last batch of shows hitting before the writer's strike problem starts to affect things, I think.
Yeah.
So it might be the last new show we have for a while.
Cause like, it's different. There's no new House of Dragon coming like this year. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff not happening this year.
Yeah.
That's happening, and that's enough.
And that brings us to the end of our On Beat segment. Now it's time for Anecdotes of the Fandom. Anecdotes of the Fandom is our new segment where we're specifically talking about one game, and that is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
And you told me before we started the podcast that you had some spicy hot takes about this game.
I have some criticisms I want to make in this Anecdotes of the Kingdom segment. And I think a lot of it is just that I just think that this game isn't as good as Breath of the Wild. I think in some ways,
God.
I think this game's a better sandbox than Breath of the Wild is. I think some people treat Breath of the Wild as purely a sandbox game. And those people are going to think Tears of the Kingdom is the better game. But if you liked Breath of the Wild as a Zelda game, as an adventure game that happens to have this huge open world where you can do a lot of things, but that's secondary to the fact that it's a Zelda game, if that's how you look at it, I think Breath of the Wild's a better game. And I think part of it is just that the game kind of restricts your freedoms more in Tears of the Kingdom. It also takes a really long time to get started. Breath of the Wild was pretty speedy. Like it kind of, Breath of the Wild, first thing you do, you wake up, you leave a cave, you see the open world, you're playing. Like right away. And then from there,
almost right away.
Well, you're playing right away. You know, it's like, and then from there, you have to like get your abilities. So it has like a little bit of a tutorial area, but it's a pretty fun and well designed and quick tutorial area. Like it's not a tutorial area you get lost in. It's a tutorial area you go just to kind of figure out what you need to do. And then you get the paraglider, you sail down. The second your feet touch the ground of the regular Hyrule field, you can go anywhere, you can do anything, everything's open to you, the world is your oyster. That's not really what's happening in Tears of the Kingdom. So Tears of the Kingdom starts off with a very lengthy, like, story cutscene / gameplay thing where basically you just have to have Link walking forward very, very slowly.
Yeah.
In step with Zelda, like, as, like, she's narrating, like, you know, the story so far, what's going on. Then, like, you get some events that happen. Then you get a bunch more story stuff. Then you finally get, like, okay, you're free, you can leave, you can go to the tutorial area. The tutorial area is much bigger, much more stuff to do, but you don't have any freedom yet. You can't even fast travel when you start, like, unlocking shrines. You can't even start fast traveling until, like, later. It just completely blocks access to things, like, right off the bat. You go through, you do the initial tutorial stage stuff, if you can find everything, and you start to realize, okay, so much of the focus here is going to be on crafting now. To the point where if that's something you're not that into, well, too bad. And in Breath of the Wild, I think they didn't have as much freedom with what you could do in Tears of the Kingdom does when it comes to, like, oh, later in the game when you have all these different options to you because of the crafting and everything. But in Breath of the Wild, like, it feels like they gave you more freedom up front to just play the way you want to play. Whereas this game seems to be trying to force you to play it the way they want you to play it, which I didn't really appreciate. Like, I didn't like that aspect of it. I should say, like, before I continue on with even more criticisms, I still love this game. I still have over 100 hours already into it. I'm still playing this, like, every night for hours on end. But I'm just saying that I have some criticisms about it, and that's where I'm going in on it. And one of the big things that really bothered me about this game was once I did land on Hyrule Field, I'm thinking with, like, Breath of the Wild brain. I'm thinking, okay, now I'm free. I'm gonna go off and do whatever I want. So I go off, I start looking for towers, stuff like that. I can't activate any of the towers. It doesn't let me. I can't fast travel. Like, it just blocks you from doing so many things. And it's like, what the hell's going on? Why is this blocking me from doing this? Then I realized realized, oh, I have to start taking on quest. And the quest you have to do to even get the paraglider, which is like basic. That should be like one of the first things you get. And the quest you have to do has nothing to do with the paragliders, but it's the only way you can access the paraglider and access the towers. And it has nothing to do with either of those. It's like, oh, investigate Hyrule Castle. So you go and investigate, then you come back and they're like, oh, by the way, we'll open towers and give you your glider now. It's like, what? Like, that makes no sense. That doesn't go with the way I like to play games. Like, I don't like to go into the story objectives. I like to explore the world and then kind of start putting the story in over time. I don't like to like front load a bunch of the story missions up front because that's not the way like I play. That's not my play style. And it feels like Tears of the Kingdom is kind of forcing you into a play style that you might not want, which I have some objections to. It also happens with a big part of the game, and we mentioned this last week, is the depths. There's other functions that you don't unlock until you go into the depths. But going into the depths is a main story mission to start going in there. And it's like, again, like, I don't want to be forced to do that right away. I want to do that in my own time.
They just want you to get familiar with...
I get that, but I want to do things in my own time. And the game is basically forcing you to do things the way they want you to do it. And I think that's antithetical to what Breath of the Wild was.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as everybody looks at it and goes like, I hear so many people saying, Breath of the Wild is now just a tech demo for Tears of the Kingdom, or Breath of the Wild walked so Tears of the Kingdom could run and stuff. And I'm like, no, there's a lot that I loved about Breath of the Wild that's just gone because of Tears of the Kingdom. And then I've only done like one of the dungeons.
They're different games.
Yeah, I know, but it's still, it's frustrating. It's frustrating the way it limits your freedom early in the game. That's like my biggest frustration.
Yeah, and that's fair.
And then as you get into things like, I've only done one of the dungeons still, that's all I've done. But one of the dungeons that you do, you get like, an ability the same way you kind of do in Breath of the Wild. But the ability is like way hampered compared to, what it was in Breath of the Wild. It's a much weaker ability that you gain. And it comes with some occasional annoyances because I don't want to like spoil it completely, so I won't say exactly what it is, but the way the ability is activated is kind of annoying when you're running around the map. It gets kind of in the way sometimes. You accidentally activate it a lot of times when you're trying to do other things, just because of the way I don't want to say what the way is because I don't want to spoil that, but like, it's frustrating. And I don't like that aspect of it. Otherwise, I do like this game. I like a lot of the ingenuity. I like the fact that there's like 3 tiers now. I like that there's more puzzle diversity. I really like the Arise ability. I like that more than the Ultra Hand or anything because I like the fact that it can play with map annotation where you can like go, okay, here's a spot that I can't get to, or here's a giant like thing that I think there's something inside, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to stand on top of it, place a marker on the map, look for a cave. Oh, I found a cave. Okay. Now I position myself below where that marker is. I'm going to use Arise. I use Arise and all of a sudden I'm in a secret area. That's cool. I like that aspect. I like how, not even talking about the depths, but I like the way they added in like extensive cave and well networks into this game.
Yeah.
They add like I really like cave exploring in this game. Like I think it's one of my favorite parts of it. So there's so much I do love about this game, but I just wanted to kind of get out some of my criticisms. And the last thing I'll say for Tears of the Kingdom before I move on to you with this is that I finally got to the depths. I've been exploring those. There's things I like about it. There's things I don't like about it. I'm not like a Dark Souls fan, so I don't care about any of those kind of poison swamp dynamics that everyone's going nuts over. That doesn't mean anything to me. But I kind of like the way you light it up using the seeds that you can attach to your arrows or throw, and the way they kind of create light sources. I think that's kind of cool. But man, the depths are kind of hard to navigate sometimes. There's so much shit in your way.
Yeah.
Not just the, what do you call it? Not just the gloom, but like just trees and stuff that just block you and you can't get past them,
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff down there.
When that's tied with not being able to see, and you're like, oh, okay, I found a map in Sky Island, and it said there's a treasure and marked it on my map in the depths. So now I'm going to try to work my way over there. And it's like, you can't really see that well. You're burning through arrows. You're burning through those seeds like crazy, trying to kind of see and get around the area. Even when you're lighting it up, it's still kind of hard to see around what you're supposed to do. And then there's like all these dark trees and other things that are kind of blocking your path. And it's just hard to kind of make your way through it sometimes. things. And it doesn't really feel like as well designed as like the main overworld was when you first played Breath of the Wild. The way like, and I've mentioned this before, like there's an invisible hand in Breath of the Wild where like the game will lead you towards like a cliff, and then you hit that cliff and you get this spectacular vista, and then the vista lets you see viewpoints. You can see things around you and go, okay, that's somewhere I want to go. That's somewhere I go. You can place some markers. You start heading off in that direction and get distracted by other things. The depths really isn't like that. It's just kind of like the cave exploration, except harder and with more danger. But it doesn't really have that aspect of like, it doesn't really feel like a well-designed environment in the way that Breath of the Wild's overworld, which is also in Tears of the Kingdom, feels like, to me at least.
Right.
So I have mixed feelings about that. I know some people, that's their favorite part of the game. I like it as a change of pace and stuff, but I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about how I feel about the depths. I absolutely adore the Sky Islands though, and I absolutely adore the changes that they've made to the overworld to make it fresh, and all the cave systems and wells, all of that I still love. So, what is your recent experiences? Have you done anything new?
I mean, I did a shrine where I got hopelessly confused, and I figured out, like, eventually I figured out the reason I was not able to figure it out was because I actually had to, there were lasers in the shrine, and there was one set of lasers, like, you actually have to, like,
oh, is that
touch.
Courage to Fall one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I was, like, trying to navigate through the lasers, and then, like, it touched me, and then, like, I fell into, like, the secret tunnel, and that's when I figured it out. But I was like, yeah, I would never have, like, because it's like Courage to Fall, and it's like Courage to run into lasers. Like, So yeah, that had me stymied, but I got through it. But that's basically my anecdote for the week.
Alright, so you haven't done any of the dungeons yet? Or have you found any of the tiers yet?
I haven't gotten that far yet, no.
Alright, well, when you do, report back with your more anecdotes.
Will do.
That is it for our Anecdotes of the Fandom section, and that means it's it for our podcast. Like last week, we don't really have a topic yet for next week. We're just gonna play it by the seat of our pants and figure out what's going on. But I'm sure we'll have more Zelda anecdotes, and some more news to cover, and some more stuff to look forward to on the horizon. I'm positive. And I might have some things to talk about in our On Tap segment, because there is some stuff that I've watched that is worth talking about that I just didn't talk about this week yet. So.
Nice.
All right. So thank you everybody for listening. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Tyson Gifford. Will is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our Facebook page, our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and open up a container story for any of these podcast episodes, you'll find all the relevant links you need. You can subscribe to the podcast through your favorite podcast kind of choice like Pocket Cast or Apple Podcast. It's available there. Just look us up, either OnScreen or The Total Screen. You should be able to find us, although we are a relatively small podcast. So it might be a few results down, but you should be able to find us. Until then, though, thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the On-Screen Podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.